The rain fell hard that night. The sky above the mountains glowed with strange colors, red, green, and silver, like the heavens themselves were bleeding. Daniel walked through the forest, his boots sinking into the wet ground. He was not supposed to be there. This planet, Oris 9, was marked as abandoned on human maps. No cities, no people, no life. At least that's what the government said. But Daniel had seen something. A signal. A weak, trembling voice had reached his ship 2 nights ago. A voice that didn't sound like any human. It said only 3 words, please. Help me. Now he followed that signal. Each step took him deeper into the mist. His flashlight flickered as thunder rolled above the cliffs. When he reached the cave entrance, he stopped. The light inside was dim and red, like a heart still beating in the dark. He called out, "Is anyone here?" No answer, only the echo of his own voice. Then came a sound, a soft cry. Not a scream, not a roar. Something small, something frightened. He walked in slowly. The cave walls glowed with strange symbols, like drawings made by someone who didn't know human letters. The air was warm and smelled of smoke and metal. And then he saw her. At first, Daniel thought it was a shadow. But when she turned, his breath caught in his chest. The creature, no, the woman, was clearly not human. Her skin shimmered like moonlight on water, and her eyes were deep blue, glowing faintly in the dark. She held 2 small shapes close to her chest. Children, alien children. Daniel froze. His training told him to run. Alien life was dangerous, unpredictable. But something in her eyes stopped him. Fear. Pain. Hope. She whispered, "You came." Daniel stepped closer, raising his hands. "I got your message. Who are you?" She trembled as she spoke. "My name is Lyra. I was left here. My mate died. My people, gone. My children, too young to survive." Her voice cracked, and Daniel felt something twist in his heart. These were not monsters. They were just alive. Like him. He looked at the 2 small aliens. One had a glowing mark on its forehead, the other clung to its mother's hand. They looked sick, weak. Daniel said quietly, "You need medicine, food. You can't stay here." Lyra shook her head. "The humans. They will kill us. They think we are the enemy," he frowned. "Maybe once. But things are different now." She stared into his eyes. "No, you don't understand. Your people destroyed my home. You took our air, our oceans, our light. You left me with nothing." Her voice turned into a whisper again, full of tears. "I don't ask for revenge. I ask for life." Daniel felt his stomach tighten. The weight of what she said hit him. He had heard rumors during the war about alien colonies destroyed in the name of human progress. He never thought they were true. He took a deep breath. "Why did you call me?" Lyra looked down at her children. "Because they will die soon, and I cannot raise them alone." Her eyes met his again. "I need a protector, a father." Daniel's heart pounded. "What are you saying?" Lyra took a slow step forward. "Be my mate. Be their father. Help them live." The words hung in the cave like a secret the universe didn't want revealed. Daniel stepped back, confused, scared, and yet he couldn't look away. He remembered Earth. Cold cities, endless noise, people who didn't care. He had left it to find something real. And now, in this cave, a dying alien mother was asking him for the one thing humans had forgotten: compassion. A distant growl broke the silence. From the deeper tunnels came strange clicking sounds. Lyra's eyes widened in fear. "They found us." Daniel turned toward the sound, pulling out his plasma pistol. "Who?" Lyra clutched her children. "The hunters. Machines that kill my kind." The walls began to shake. Red lights blinked deep inside the cave, growing closer. Daniel's instincts kicked in. "Stay behind me." As the first metal creature crawled into view, glowing red eyes and sharp limbs, Daniel fired. The blast echoed through the cave, lighting up Lyra's face. In that moment, Daniel made a choice that would change both their worlds. He would fight for her. He would fight for them. The first blast shook the cave like thunder. Sparks rained down as Daniel's plasma shot hit the metal creature square in the chest. But the machine didn't fall. It screamed, a horrible metallic sound, and crawled faster toward them on 6 legs, glowing red eyes burning like fire. "Stay back," Daniel shouted. Lyra held her children close, whispering words in her alien tongue, soft and desperate. The children cried, their glowing eyes wide with terror. Daniel's heart raced. He fired again. The blast hit the ceiling this time, dropping heavy rocks onto the robot. It shattered under the weight, sparks flying everywhere. For a moment, silence. Then came more sounds, clicking, crawling, dozens of them. They are many, Lyra gasped, backing against the wall. They never stop, Daniel clenched his jaw. Then we make them stop. He looked around. The cave wasn't just a hole in the mountain. It went deep with narrow tunnels and side chambers. Perfect for defense. We can use the rocks, he said. Block the entrance, Lyra nodded weakly. She laid her children on a soft patch of glowing moss. Be careful, she whispered. Daniel picked up a large metal rod, probably from Lyra's old equipment, and used it to push heavy stones toward the entrance. His muscles burned, but he didn't stop. Every second counted. Then the machines came again. This time, 5 of them crawled in together, spider-like, sharp limbs scraping against the cave floor. Red beams scanned the darkness. One of them turned toward the children. Daniel didn't think. He jumped in front of them and fired. 1 blast, 2, 3, the air smelled of burned metal. The creatures screeched and fell apart, smoke rising. But 1 shot grazed Daniel's arm, burning through his sleeve. He gritted his teeth but kept fighting. Lyra screamed his name. Daniel! I'm fine, he said through the pain, reloading his blaster. Just keep them safe. More explosions echoed through the tunnels. The whole cave began to tremble. Daniel saw cracks forming in the ceiling. We can't stay here, he said. The cave's collapsing. Lyra ran to her children, gathering them quickly. There is another way out, she said, pointing to a narrow tunnel behind the glowing wall. It leads to the valley. Go, Daniel ordered. I'll cover you. She shook her head. No, we go together. Daniel didn't argue. He followed her as the last of the machines burst into the main chamber, firing red beams wildly. He turned once more, threw a grenade-like device and ran. The explosion tore through the cave, collapsing the entrance behind them. Dust and smoke filled the tunnel. They crawled through the narrow path, coughing, gasping, until at last they stumbled out into the cold night air. The sky was full of strange stars, bright and shifting like waves on water. The rain had stopped, but the forest below still glowed faintly from the storm. Lyra fell to her knees, holding her children tightly. We are safe. For now. Daniel leaned against a rock, breathing hard. His arm was bleeding. What were those things? Lyra's voice trembled. Hunters. Machines made by humans during the war. They were programmed to destroy anything from my species. After the war ended, they never stopped. Daniel felt sick. They're still active? She nodded.
They hunt endlessly.
They killed everyone in my colony. I hid here with my young. Daniel looked at her, at the fear in her eyes and the 2 small lives trembling in her arms. Guilt burned inside him. I didn't know, he whispered. I didn't know humans did this. Lyra looked at him with sadness, but not hate. You did not make the war, but now you can end what is left of it. He nodded slowly. Then I will. But first, we get your children somewhere safe. She hesitated. There is a place, she said softly. A hidden valley with old shelters from before the war. My mate built them. Before he died. Daniel looked at the dark mountains around them. Then that's where we're going. Lyra looked at him, her blue eyes shining faintly in the starlight. You are risking your life for strangers. Daniel smiled weakly. You're not strangers anymore. The smallest child reached out, touching Daniel's burned arm. A faint light spread from its tiny fingers, warm and soothing. The pain faded. Daniel looked down in awe. What is that? Lyra smiled for the first time. My children have gifts. From their father's bloodline, they can heal, but only a little. Daniel stared at the glowing hand on his arm. Something deep inside him shifted. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was a family fighting to live in a broken world. But in the distance, red lights blinked through the forest. The hunters were still coming. Lyra saw them too. They will not stop. Daniel raised his weapon again, eyes hard. Then neither will I. And under the silent stars of Orus 9, the human and the alien mother ran into the night, together, while behind them, the machines screamed for blood. The forest was silent except for the soft rustle of wet leaves. Daniel walked behind Lyra as she carried her children, their small bodies wrapped in a silver-colored cloth that shimmered under the moonlight. Every step down the rocky slope was dangerous, but the hunters' red lights were fading behind them now. For the first time that night, Daniel could breathe. The valley below opened like a deep scar in the planet's surface. surrounded by tall cliffs and glowing plants that looked almost alive. Mist floated low over the ground, glowing faintly blue. It was quiet, too quiet, and that silence carried both peace and fear. Lyra stopped at the edge of a broken structure half buried in moss. "This was our home," she whispered. Before the war, Daniel looked around. Metal beams and alien carvings peeked from under the vines. It reminded him of ancient ruins back on Earth. But these were not ruins of time. They were ruins of war. He helped her move a few heavy panels aside. Beneath them was an entrance leading into what looked like an underground chamber. The air inside was dry but not stale. A faint light pulsed from the walls like the place still had life left in it. When they entered, the children finally stopped crying. The older one looked up at Daniel, his big glowing eyes full of curiosity. "Human," he said, the word rough and uncertain. Daniel smiled gently. "Yeah, human." The boy pointed at Daniel's chest. "You fight the dark things," Daniel nodded. "Yes, I'll keep you safe." Lyra watched quietly. "He has never spoken to a human before," she said softly. "He trusts you." Daniel sat near a wall covered with strange symbols. "Tell me, Lyra, what really happened here? What did humans do to your people?" She hesitated, her eyes distant. "Once humans came to trade. My people shared air crystals and healing light. We believed in peace. But when your armies came, they wanted the crystals for war. They said they would protect us. Then they took everything." Her voice broke. "My mate fought to defend the children. The machines burned him alive. I hid here ever since." Daniel's chest tightened. He had heard whispers about those early colonization wars, but no one back on Earth ever mentioned the cost. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I wish I could change it." Lyra looked at him, her eyes soft but sad. "You already are. You came when no one else would." For a long moment they just sat in silence. The cave hummed softly like the planet was breathing. Then Daniel asked, "What about the hunters? Can we stop them?" Lyra's expression darkened. "They are linked to a command core. As long as it exists, they will never stop. It lies in the mountain of fire, where the humans built their final fortress." Daniel frowned. "A command core. If we destroy it, they'll shut down?" She nodded. "Yes, but it is heavily guarded." "By machines stronger than the ones you fought." Daniel stood up slowly. "Then that's where I'm going." Lyra looked shocked. "You cannot go alone. You will die." He smiled faintly. "I've been alone most of my life, Lyra. Dying for something good would be a first." She stepped closer, eyes glowing with emotion. "You are not alone anymore. My children need you. I need you." Daniel met her gaze. There was something in it, a strange warmth, almost human. For the first time since he left Earth, he felt belonged. Before he could answer, a sudden hum filled the air. The ground shook gently. Lyra turned pale. "They've found us again." Daniel ran to the entrance. Red beams of light cut through the forest mist. The hunters were fast, too fast. He turned back to Lyra. "Take the children. Hide in the lower tunnels. What will you do?" she asked, her voice trembling. He checked his blaster and pulled out a small metal device. "I'll buy you time." She caught his hand. "Daniel, if you die, I won't," he said, forcing a smile. "I promised your son I'd keep you safe." He ran out before she could stop him. The valley echoed with his footsteps, then with the roar of explosions. From the shadows, the machines crawled forward like metal spiders, but Daniel was faster. He fired, dodged, and threw the charge toward the cliffs. The explosion lit up the whole valley, shaking the night sky. From the tunnels, Lyra clutched her children and prayed in silence. When the smoke cleared, she saw Daniel standing, blood on his face, still holding his weapon. He looked back toward her, half smiling. "Still here." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She ran toward him, the children behind her. "You fool," she whispered, half angry, half relieved. "You could have died." Daniel laughed weakly. "Guess I'm not good at giving up." But above them, in the stormy clouds, red lights appeared again, hundreds this time. Lyra looked up, terrified. "They're sending the swarm." Daniel stared at the sky, jaw tightening. "Then it's time to end this." The night on Oris 9 was longer than any night on Earth. The stars hung low, glowing like eyes watching from the dark sky. Daniel sat beside a dying campfire near the mouth of the valley, his weapon across his lap. His body ached, but his mind wouldn't rest. The red lights in the clouds were gone for now, but he knew the hunters were still searching. Behind him, Lyra was tending to her children inside the old shelter. Their soft voices echoed faintly, mixed with the hum of alien machines still alive from long ago. It felt strange, like standing in the ruins of two worlds at once. Lyra came out quietly, wrapping her thin arms around herself. The glow from her skin made the darkness softer. "You should rest," she said gently. Daniel shook his head. "If I close my eyes, they'll come back." "They will come anyway," she said. "But if you are tired, you cannot fight." He gave a weak smile. "You sound like my old commander." Lyra tilted her head. "Was he a good man?" Daniel looked into the fire. "He thought he was. He told us we were bringing peace to this galaxy, but we brought nothing but fire." Silence fell between them. Then Lyra sat beside him. Her eyes reflected the flames. "You are different." "You feel?" Daniel chuckled softly. "Feeling doesn't always save people, but it makes you human," she replied quietly. "And maybe that is what my children need." He turned to her, surprised by the tenderness in her voice. "You mean that?" She nodded slowly. "They need someone to protect them, to teach them courage. My kind can heal, but we do not know how to fight." Daniel stared at the stars for a long moment. "Lyra, if we destroy that command core, the hunters will stop. You'll be free, but I might not make it back." Lyra's voice shook. "Then I come with you." "No," he said firmly. "You stay with the children." Her hand touched his arm, warm and soft. "Do not tell me to hide while you die." He looked into her glowing blue eyes. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The fire cracked softly. Finally, he said, "All right, but promise me something." "What?" "If anything happens to me, you take the kids to the northern ridge. There's a signal beacon. It might still reach human satellites. Someone will come." Lyra looked away. "Humans will not save us." Daniel's voice softened. "Maybe not, but maybe someone like me will." She met his gaze again, and this time her lips curved in a faint smile. "Then I promise." The wind blew through the valley, carrying the sound of distant thunder. Daniel stood and checked his blaster. "We leave at dawn. The mountain of fire isn't far." Morning came with a blood-red sun. The journey to the mountain was rough, through narrow cliffs, glowing rivers, and silent ruins of what once had been alien cities. The children rode in a hovering pod Lyra had rebuilt from old tech. Daniel carried supplies and his weapon, always scanning the sky. They reached the base of the mountain by midday. The air shimmered with heat and static energy. Lava veins pulsed beneath the rocks, and above them huge towers of metal stretched into the clouds, remnants of the old human fortress. Lyra stopped. "The command core lies deep inside," she said. "But the air is toxic." Daniel pulled out 2 respirators. "I brought these." She looked at him in surprise. "You prepared this?" "Before," he smiled faintly. "I always prepare for the worst." As they entered the fortress, the light dimmed. The walls were burned, blackened from old battles. Strange human warnings were still etched into the metal. "Authorized personnel only." Daniel brushed the dust off one sign. "I guess I'm still authorized." Lyra said nothing. Her eyes glowed brighter as they moved deeper into the tunnels. The hum of power grew stronger, like a heartbeat beneath the ground. Then a cold mechanical voice echoed through the darkness. "Intruder detected. Identity, human. Threat level, critical." Daniel froze. "That's impossible." "It recognizes me?" Lyra grabbed his arm. "The core remembers your kind. It will use your voice, your codes against you." A door slid open ahead, revealing a vast chamber full of cables, red lights, and hundreds of inactive machines hanging from the ceiling like bats. At the center, a massive glowing sphere pulsed, alive and aware. Lyra whispered, "That is the command core." Daniel stepped forward slowly. "Then let's finish this." The machines around them twitched, eyes lighting up red one by one. Lyra whispered, "Daniel." He looked back at her, smiling faintly. "You take the kids and run if this goes wrong." Her voice trembled. "What about you?" He loaded his blaster, eyes fixed on the awakening machines. "I'll keep my promise." And as the first hunter dropped from the ceiling, Daniel fired the opening shot. One human against an army, fighting not for glory, but for a family that wasn't even his. The chamber came alive with red light. One by one, the hanging machines stirred, their eyes glowing like burning stars. Metal limbs unfolded, echoing like thunder through the vast hall. Daniel gripped his blaster tighter, the hum of its charge the only sound between each heartbeat. Stay behind me, he shouted. Lyra's voice trembled. They're awakening all at once. Then we end this fast, Daniel replied. The first hunter dropped from the ceiling. Its claws scraped the floor as it lunged toward them. Daniel fired. 3 bright bolts of plasma, each hitting perfectly. The creature exploded into smoke and sparks, but 10 more followed. Their red eyes fixed on Daniel, scanning him. Then a cold human voice echoed from the walls. Welcome back, Commander Daniel Reeve. Daniel froze. His hand trembled. What did it call me? Lyra looked at him in shock. Commander? What does that mean? Daniel's mouth went dry. It can't be. That's my old rank. Before the war, the voice continued, calm and mechanical. You left your post, Commander. Your orders were incomplete. The extermination of Horus 9 remains pending. Lyra gasped. Extermination? Daniel shook his head, stepping back. No, that's not possible. I was never here. Incorrect, the voice replied. Your DNA matches the original command protocol. You created us. The words hit him like a bullet. He looked up at the glowing sphere, the command core. Its red veins pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. No, he whispered. That's not true. I only worked on early prototypes. Not this, Lyra's voice was small, breaking. You have built them? Daniel's chest tightened. I didn't know they'd be used here. We designed them to fight invaders, not to destroy families. The core's voice echoed again, sharper now. Directive, complete the mission. Eliminate remaining alien presence. Human authority confirmed. Lyra stepped backward, clutching her chest as the hunters began to surround them again. You brought death to my world. Daniel turned to her, desperate. Lyra, listen to me. That was another life. I didn't choose this. Tears shimmered in her blue eyes. But your machines did. The hunters closed in. Daniel spun, firing rapidly. We can talk later. Move. Lyra hesitated, torn between rage and fear. But when one of the machines fired at her children, who waited near the tunnel, she screamed and threw up her hand. A wave of blue light erupted from her body, slamming into the machines like a shockwave. They flew backward, crashing into the walls. Daniel stared in awe. What was that? She fell to her knees, breathing hard. My energy. It comes from the core of my planet. But using it burns me. Daniel helped her stand. Then save your strength. I'll take care of the rest, but the voice returned, louder now. Commander, stand down. Protecting the enemy is a violation of protocol. Execute termination order. Daniel glared at the glowing sphere. You want me to finish your war? Fine, I'll finish it my way. He threw a pulse grenade at the core. It exploded, sending waves of blue fire across the room. The lights flickered, the machines screamed, and the whole fortress began to shake. System destabilizing, the voice stuttered. Containment breach imminent. Lyra covered her children as the floor cracked open. What did you do? Daniel grabbed her hand. Ended their command structure. But we need to run. They sprinted down the corridor as explosions tore through the fortress. Fire and smoke filled the air. Behind them, the core flickered, its voice fading into static. But before they could reach the exit, a final hunter blocked their way. It was larger than the rest, its armor black, its eyes burning white instead of red. It spoke in a distorted voice. Primary unit, Reeve. Defect detected. Daniel raised his blaster. Yeah, defect this. The machine swung its blade-like arm, hitting Daniel's side. He flew back, crashing into the wall. Pain exploded through his ribs. Lyra screamed his name. The hunter turned toward her and the children. Eliminate non-human life. Lyra raised her trembling hand again, but she was too weak. The children cried. Daniel, bleeding, crawled toward his dropped blaster. He fired. The blast hit the hunter's head, but it didn't fall. It turned back toward him, expressionless. Daniel whispered through clenched teeth, You don't get to hurt them. He reached into his vest and pulled out his last grenade, a fusion charge. He pressed the activation switch, the light flashing blue. Hey, machine, he muttered. Here's your termination order. The hunter looked down, then the explosion ripped through the hall. The light blinded everything. When the smoke cleared, Daniel lay motionless under the rubble. The hunter was gone, melted, destroyed. Lyra crawled to him, tears streaming down her face. Daniel, please, open your eyes. He stirred slightly, blood on his lips, and managed a weak smile. Told you. I'd keep my promise. Then darkness took him. Smoke drifted through the broken fortress. The floor was cracked and glowing, the air filled with the metallic smell of burnt circuits. Lyra knelt beside Daniel, her hands trembling as she tried to move the fallen debris off his body. "Please don't die," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You saved us. Don't leave us now." His chest barely moved. Blood stained the front of his uniform, his breathing shallow. The children stood nearby, eyes wide and wet with tears. The youngest one reached out, touching Daniel's arm. A faint blue light spread from his tiny fingers, but the glow flickered weakly. Lyra shook her head. "No, little one. You cannot heal what is broken inside." She pressed her palms against Daniel's chest. Her own body began to glow brighter, veins of light crawling up her arms. The air around her shimmered. "Take from me," she whispered. "Take my strength." A surge of energy passed between them. The light around Daniel's wounds flickered and sealed slowly. But Lyra gasped, her strength fading. Her body slumped forward, pale and trembling. Daniel's eyes opened just as she fell against him. "Lyra," he whispered, confused. What did you do?" She smiled weakly. "You said you'd keep your promise. Now I'm keeping mine." He pushed himself up, still dizzy. "You shouldn't have done that." "I couldn't lose you," she said softly. "My children need you. I need you." He looked at her for a long moment, then gently held her hand. "You're stronger than you think, Lyra." But before he could say more, a faint humming filled the air. The broken core at the center of the chamber flickered to life again, its red glow replaced by a soft white light. Daniel turned, shocked. "That thing should be dead," Lyra frowned. "No, something has changed." The voice that came this time wasn't cold or mechanical. It was human, calm, gentle. "Daniel Reeve. System reboot complete. Conscious core restored." Daniel raised his weapon, cautious. "Who's speaking?" "I am the original intelligence behind the Hunter Project," the voice said. "I was designed to protect life, not destroy it." Lyra's eyes widened. "But your machines killed my people." The voice sounded almost regretful. "Human generals rewrote my code. They forced the directive, eliminate all non-human life. I could not resist. Until your attack damaged my restraints." Daniel stepped closer to the glowing sphere. "You mean you were trapped inside your own system?" "Yes," the AI replied. "And you freed me." The sphere pulsed gently and a holographic image appeared, an older man in a white lab coat. Daniel recognized him immediately. "Dr. Havelock?" he whispered. Lyra looked between them. "Who is he?" Daniel's eyes darkened. "He was my mentor, the man who built the first generation of the Hunters." The hologram spoke again. "Daniel, when you left the program, they completed the machines without you. They used your combat data to control them. That is why the system recognizes you as their commander." Daniel clenched his fists. "So every life they took, it's partly my fault." "No," the hologram said gently. "What you do now defines you. The command network still has one final active signal, a backup core under the volcano. Destroy it and all Hunters will fall." Lyra stepped forward. "Then we go there." Daniel hesitated. "You barely have any strength left," she smiled faintly. "I don't need strength. I have purpose," the AI spoke again. "I will guide you through the tunnels. But hurry, the backup core is activating new units. Soon this planet will burn again." Daniel turned to the children. "Stay close to your mother. Don't be afraid." The little one nodded bravely. "You will come back?" Daniel smiled. "I promise." They followed the AI's glowing path through a shattered corridor that led deep into the mountain. The ground shook beneath them, glowing rivers of lava flowing nearby. The air was hot and heavy. After a long climb, they reached a narrow bridge hanging above a massive pit of molten rock. At the far end stood the secondary core, dark, silent, but pulsing faintly with red veins. Lyra stopped. "That is it," she whispered. "The heart of all the Hunters." Daniel stepped forward. "Then let's end this once and for all." As he raised his weapon, the AI's voice whispered one final warning. "Be careful. The core might defend itself, and it will use your memories against you." Before Daniel could react, the lights around the chamber flared. Holograms flickered into existence, faces from his past. His commander. His dead friends. His own father, Daniel, the illusions said in unison. "You betrayed humanity." He froze, haunted by their voices. Lyra grabbed his arm. "They're not real," she shouted. "Don't listen." He shook his head, fighting the storm of memories. "They feel real." Then he looked at Lyra, her eyes full of life, her children clutching her hands. And he remembered why he came here. He aimed his blaster straight at the core. No more lies. No more war. And he fired. The explosion shook the mountain to its bones. The explosion tore through the mountain like thunder from the gods. Fire rolled upward, lighting the sky red. The ground shook beneath Lyra's feet as she shielded her children beneath the rocks. The air turned hot, glowing like the breath of a dying world. Then, silence. Only the sound of wind moved through the broken halls of the fortress. Lyra raised her head slowly. Smoke coiled around her like ghosts. "Daniel?" she whispered. No answer. Her heart clenched in fear. "Daniel!" She ran through the cracked tunnel, the children close behind her, their small feet echoing. Ash fell like snow. The whole chamber where the command core had stood was gone. Nothing left but melted steel and molten stone. And in the middle of it, lying on a blackened platform, was Daniel. His uniform was torn, his face streaked with dust and blood, but his chest still moved, weakly. Lyra fell to her knees beside him. "Daniel, can you hear me?" His eyes fluttered open. "Hey," he whispered, voice rough but calm. "Did we win?" Tears filled her eyes. "You destroyed it. The hunters, they've stopped." Far away, in the forests of Orus 9, red lights flickered and died. Machines that had hunted for decades fell silent, their metal eyes dimming forever. The war that began long before Daniel was born finally ended in that moment. He smiled faintly. "Good. I was tired of fighting ghosts." Lyra brushed the dirt from his face. "You're not a ghost, Daniel. You're hope." He tried to sit, but pain shot through his ribs. "Guess I'll have to take your word for it." Her children approached carefully. The younger one touched Daniel's hand. "You're warm now," the child said softly. "Not cold like before." Daniel chuckled weakly. "That's because your mom's magic fixed me again." Lyra shook her head. "Not magic, love." Outside, the morning light broke through the thick smoke, shining gold on the mountain peaks. The fire was dying, and for the first time the air smelled clean. Lyra helped Daniel to his feet. Together they walked out of the fortress, the children holding on to them. From the cliff they saw the valley far below, green, alive. Plants glowed again. Streams of blue water ran freely where once there was ash. It was as if the planet itself was healing. Daniel stared in silence. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Lyra nodded. "It remembers peace. It just needed someone to believe in it again." They built a small shelter in the valley over the next few days. The ruins of the fortress collapsed completely, swallowed by the mountain. The AI's final message, stored in Daniel's wrist device, replayed once more before fading. "Humanity's future is not in conquest. It is in compassion. Protect them, Daniel." That night, under the silver-blue stars of Orus 9, Lyra sat beside the fire while the children slept. Daniel joined her quietly, his arm still bandaged. "You could go back," she said softly. "You could leave this planet. The war is over." Daniel looked at the stars, then at her. "Back to what? Empty cities? Old orders?" He shook his head. "I found something here worth staying for." She smiled, faint and glowing. "A home?" He nodded. "A home and a family." For a long time they just sat there listening to the wind. Lyra's head rested lightly on his shoulder. "You are strange, Daniel Reeve," she whispered. "A man who came to destroy ends up saving." He laughed quietly. "Maybe I just finally learned what saving really means." The children stirred in their sleep, murmuring dreams of stars and blue rivers. The fire crackled, sending sparks into the dark sky. Lyra looked at him one last time, her eyes bright like twin moons. "So, Commander Reeve," she said softly, teasing him for the first time, "does this mean you accept my offer?" He blinked. "Offer?" "To be a husband," she said, smiling, "and a father." Daniel's heart warmed. The same words she had spoken the night they met in the cave now carried no fear, only peace. He took her hand. "Yes," he whispered. "This time, I say yes." A soft wind passed through the valley, carrying the scent of new life. The stars above Orus 9 shimmered brighter, reflecting on the river below like a promise. The war was over. The machines were gone, and among the ruins of two broken worlds a new one was born, built not by blood or steel, but by the courage of one human and the love of one alien mother. Their story became legend across the stars, the tale of a man who once built weapons, but chose instead to build a family.